Our first slide, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, lists Castellana's contact information. She is the Kingdom DEIB Officer at this time. You can contact her through Facebook. You can contact her through email. You can contact her through her personal email. And you have consent to contact her through email or Facebook Messenger. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to shoot her a message. Go ahead. Our objectives today are talking about the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Office. We're going to be defining some terms and moving forward. But first, let us agree to use I statements, to actively listen, to respect confidentiality, and to honor boundaries. I statements. It's active first person speaking. I statements focus on the feelings and beliefs of the person speaking. I don't feel heard versus you're not listening to me. I statements are things like, I think this. I feel this way. I am concerned about this. I want this thing, and I need you to, and such and so on. Active listening. These are some of the key active listening skills. Mostly it's paying attention. It's being able to withhold judgment and reflect and paraphrase. You can request clarification. You can share with active listening skills. Go ahead. And confidentiality is basically what happens in class stays in class. It's okay to leave this class and tell your friends, in the DEIB class, we talked about this thing. It is not okay to leave this class and tell your friends, in the DEIB class, this specific person said this specific thing. We want to make sure that we maintain confidentiality for everyone who's in the class. And boundaries. The dictionary definition, a line that marks the limits of an area or a dividing line. Personal boundaries are the limits and rules we set for ourselves. This is a Venn diagram of boundaries. You have your space, they have their space, and where those spaces meet is the boundary, and we have to respect that boundary. The DEIB office, what it is. This comes straight from the Kingdom website. The official description. The DEIB office for the Kingdom of Ansteorra is committed to promoting the values of inclusion throughout the Kingdom of Ansteorra and the SCA. The focus is equity, which is just and fair inclusion into an organization in which all can participate, prosper, benefit, and reach their full potential. The DEIB office develops activities and training to cultivate a climate in which all members are treated fairly and able to thrive in a welcoming atmosphere. This work is compliant with non-discrimination laws, ADA laws, the SCA mission statement, and our governing documents, especially our policies on harassment, bullying, and hate speech. So that was a lot. And what does that mean? Committed to promoting values of inclusion. What does inclusion feel like for the individual? Inclusion is about social acceptance. having positive interactions with one's peers and being valued and respected as an individual. And what does inclusion feel like for a community? It must be internally motivated and stem from embracing the belief that all people have value and the right to belong. We focus on equity. That's the quality of being fair. We're recreating the Middle Ages, and they had the chivalric virtues in the Middle Ages. In this current Middle Ages, the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging are the practical application of the chivalric virtues for today. This image is shown on all SCA pages. It's basically a blurb asking you to, respect our core values. We're here for history and fun. You are here to act in accordance with our virtues of honor and service. And if you do not and cannot, you may be asked to leave. Go ahead. Equality versus equity. Equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities. Equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. Here we have the giving tree. And as you can see, inequality allows one person to receive all of the apples. Equality gives both boys the same ladder, but it doesn't actually allow for equity to happen. Equity customizes tools that identify and address inequalities. Now both boys are able to reach the apples. However, justice is fixing the system to offer equal access to both tools and opportunities. We are paying attention and listening to the people in our community. We are recognizing the unique circumstances and needs of the people in our community. And we are allocating resources accordingly so everyone has equal opportunities. This way, all can participate, prosper, benefit, and reach their full potential. And I believe, yes, that is the first section of the slides. Does anybody have any questions to this point? Okay. The DEIB office, what it is. The official description, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Office for the Kingdom of Ansteorra is committed to promoting the values of inclusion throughout the Kingdom of Ansteorra and the SCA. The focus is equity, which is just and fair inclusion into an organization in which all can participate and prosper and benefit and reach their full potential. And again, the DEI office develops activities and training to cultivate a climate in which all members are treated fairly and able to thrive in a welcoming atmosphere. Go ahead. Cultivating a climate. That's what we're doing right now. Every time we take a DEI class, we cultivate a climate that brings about equity and inclusion and belonging. Every time we attend and speak at a DEI roundtable and discussion, every time we talk with others about the principles of DEIB, and every time we actively listen to others and recognize their unique circumstances and needs and value them as individuals and members of this community. We want to promote a welcoming atmosphere. This goes back to what inclusion feels like for the individual. Social acceptance, where other people signal that they wish to include you in their groups and activities. Having positive interactions, where individuals are encouraged to be themselves, to participate in activities that interest them, to learn, grow, and advance at their own pace. And being valued and respected as an individual. This could be an entirely separate class. Go ahead. Where individuals are encouraged to be themselves, to participate in activities that interest them, and to learn, grow, and advance at their own pace. Gatekeeping refers to a set of rules or customs, usually unwritten, that are established to exclude or invalidate certain people or their opinions. The Urban Dictionary defines gatekeeping as the practice of preventing the entry of bad actors into a fandom. And then why the B? Diversity is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is having a voice. And belonging is having that voice be heard. This shows where accessibility, equity, diversity all meet together and form the belonging. And as Maya Angelou put it, we do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, you do better. A growth mindset asks, what can I learn from this? How can I be an inspiration to someone else? Can I invite collaboration into my life and work? What support can I reach out to? What is the next easiest step for me? What have I done in the past to keep going? What has inspired me to be proud of myself? How will I prepare myself to learn today? And who can I show kindness to today? When we choose to unlearn the things that no longer serve us, unlearning forces us to challenge what we have come to know as the way things are supposed to be, and instead choose to embrace the way things are. We are choosing to unlearn and challenge the way things, well, that's just how it is in the SCA. We are choosing to unlearn that. Every single thing we know today as adults, we had to learn at some point in our development. Even though unlearning is difficult, it is something each of us should commit to doing. With a focus on current, real-world issues, unlearning can help us adapt to change. To unlearn, you need to ask yourself, where do these beliefs come from? Do these support my mental health? Is this in alignment with the life I want? Do I believe these things to be true myself? Is this congruent with my authenticity and the person I am and the person I want to become? How to change a default behavior. We start small, gentle and slow at first. Don't start by changing what you've been doing for years. We don't start from the top. Your brain will never get on board with that, and you'll feel like you're fighting an uphill battle. Neutrally notice when you engage in the behavior you want to extinguish without judging it. Ask yourself what thoughts were going through your mind just before you were in that behavior. Ask what you get from this behavior. Why do you think you need those things? And what might happen if you didn't get them? And then we have making goals versus making habits. When you're making goals, it relies on an event. You tend to revert back to the old ways once it's met. When you're making a habit, it relies on a continuum. There isn't an end in and of itself, so change is sustainable. Making goals depends on factors we do not control, and they are easily disrupted. Making habits depends on our intention, direction, and willful energy, and they are systemic by nature. Making goals is an achievement with little incentive to repeat. Making habits is an achievement with a desire to repeat. And making goals requires consistent action, which is often difficult to maintain. Making habits is easy to complete at least once, which is an incentive to repeat. Do we have any questions up to this point? Okay. Thank you, Jacob. We're going to define some terms. Ally. An ally is someone who makes the commitment and effort to recognize their privilege based on gender, class, race, sexual identity, etc., and works in solidarity with oppressed groups in the struggle for justice. Allies understand that it is in their own interest to end all forms of oppression, even those from which they may benefit in concrete ways. What does being an ally look like for us? Well, we educate ourselves. Remember the giving tree image? Identify who in your community is on each side of that tree. Recognize the weight of your own voice. Who listens to you? Are you part of the royal family? Landed or past landed nobility? An officer? Just really charismatic and popular? Are you using the weight of your voice to promote values and inclusion, to educate others on the distinction between equality and equity and why that distinction is important, to cultivate a welcoming environment? Never underestimate the power of one person. You do not have to be a member of the royal family to be an ally. You do not have to be landed or past landed nobility or an officer in order to make changes. All you have to do is use the weight of your voice to promote values of inclusion. You are that one person. And then we have consent. Agreement or permission expressed through affirmative voluntary words or actions that are mutually understandable to all parties involved. What does consent look like for us? So much of social interactions are based on assumptions. Just ask. If the golden rule is to treat others the way you want to be treated, the DEIB rule is to treat others the way they want to be treated. And how do we know how they want to be treated? Just ask. Ask, what would you like to be called? What are your pronouns and honorifics? What kind of things interest you? Do you want to join us? Are you wanting to participate or just watch? Are you willing and able to oversee, plan, and run this activity? What all do you need to do? Maybe may I help you by taking care of these specific tasks for you? May I take your picture? May I publish that picture on Facebook or in the newsletter? Those are things that we ask. Consent is clear, coherent, willing, and ongoing. Consent is active. That is the clear. Coherent. People incapacitated by drugs or alcohol cannot consent. Willing. Consent is never given under pressure. And ongoing. Consent must be granted every time. Consent is freely given. It's reversible. It's informed, enthusiastic, and specific. Boundaries are a line that marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. Personal boundaries are limits and rules we set for ourselves. First we ask, and then we honor and respect their answers. Moving forward, we continue to educate ourselves. Encourage others to attend DEIB classes. Be an ally. Use the weight of your own voice. Actively listen. Ask, ask, ask. Don't make assumptions. And respect people's answers. Because when we know better, we do better. Thank you